guys, so this is part 11 of What If Kamen writer Genm was in RWBY. So let's start. Chapter 11, Fashion Brawl. Heartbroken. Beacon Academy, Ace's room, morning. Again as it may be, the morning sun shines upon the dorm, the light reflecting on Ace's face, who groans and doesn't want to get out of his comfy bed. Arrow cause apparently for each time it's morning. Fine. He mumbled as he got up. He yawns and scratches his butt for being tired as hell. Kuroto looks over and sees the pink-colored blanket, most likely it was Poppy who tucked him in. Which he smiled a bit for a second. Poppy is just whistling and singing again, fixing up her side all nice and clean just the way she likes. Good morning you two, she said with her usual smile. Morning, Ace said as he fixes his hair a bit so it's not too messy. Looking for his schedule as he sees there's no classes for him once again. He fists pumps and smiles. And, back to sleep I go. He said as he was going to jump into his bed, but someone slammed the door that interrupted his date with his bed. Ack! He lands face first and grumbled some words that weren't loud enough to hear. He stood back up and turned around to see Ruby scratching her hair a little there with a nervous smile. I'm sorry. She apologized with a short bow, but she went ahead to Ace's room. Whoa! She awed at the pink decorations and looked at Ace. Ace shook his head and pointed at Poppy, the former still on the ground. While Poppy hummed as she was confused, but once she saw Ruby. Oh! She oh-ed as she quickly skipped her way to Ruby and hugged her, pulling her up in the air. You're so adorable. Jesus Christ. Is everyone here except me strong? Ace thought as he saw how strong Poppy was holding Ruby. He woke up and patted Poppy's shoulder. I think you should let go of her. Poppy didn't realize Ruby was struggling for air as she nervously chuckled, letting the red hood go as she bowed in apology as well. I'm sorry about this. It's just that you're so adorable. Ruby pouted once she got back up and looked away. I am not. Ace coughed in order to get the two's attention. Anyways, I don't want to sound rude but... Why are you here? The Red Hood immediately tilted her head confused, but she remembered something after that. Taking out her own scroll and played the videos of Ace and Kuroto, who she doesn't know it was Kuroto as well. How did you do all of this? Oh. Ace finally remembered that incident, although it may have been from last week. He's made quite a big popularity around Vale already. Which is both a good thing and a bad thing. He crossed his arms and smiled wearily. I guess it was because I'm pretty trained in the all about the whole swordsmanship and shooting skills? Ruby bowed to him as she was literally bowing. Oh hail Ace, she said as Ace started to get more embarrassed. Kuroto narrowed his eyes and pushed Ace aside. You're not supposed to pray for my prophecy, he said as he used one of the cushions like his foot rest. It should be me. Cammy. Ace shrugged, which Poppy dragged Kuroto's ear and pulled him out. Sorry about that, Ace said, the both of them nervously laughed. Ruby. Ruby's name being called, she turned and saw the rest of the gang coming in, although it's odd that they can still fit in the room. Oh hey guys. She waved them to come in. Ace was shaking his head, but he sighed. As the gang entered, they saw the pink side and all stared at Ace. He pinched the bridge of his nose and jabbed a thumb to Poppy. They all looked at her and awed. Another bugster? Weiss asked rudely. Ace narrowed his eyes at Weiss, who flinched and stopped pointing. Sure, let's put her in the bugster list, he said sarcastically, rolling his eyes. Yes, and she has a name. Poppy let go of Kuroto's ear, the latter who's feeling the after-pain of the pull. My name's Poppy Pipopopopo. Doing her signature wink and two-finger salute. I'm glad to hear you all have been friends with Ace here, she said as she smiled, bowing too. Thank you. Everyone were nervous and didn't try to say anything rude, but each mumbled. No problem. John spoke up. Ace was silently chuckling. Blake heard it because of her traits as a cat faunus. She's the mother of Dan Kuroto. Each eye were raised and brows as well, both having a surprised expression. What? I figured they're going to act like that. Still funny is how right I am. After telling them about Poppy and how she's the mother, it adds up because before they didn't trust Kuroto. But when they remembered him saying I wanted to give everyone an option to continue. Surprisingly, everyone didn't say anything back negative towards him. It's good because the gang will listen to him in case if anything goes wrong. But yeah, it's finally set in stone for their trusts to be earned. Poppy has been pretty happy getting along with everyone, especially RWBY. However, now that I think about the two of them, a mother treating her like as if she's her daughter. Man, I'm going to have to take care of Poppy then. Because of RWBY's previous mother. And as harsh it sounds, I can't say much about her. Once everyone got happy due to Poppy and my Grimm's dancing and singing, which was beautiful, along with RWBY who joined in, which was even more adorable. They waved their goodbyes. RWBY gave Poppy a small hug. DAWWW. My heart's going to feel this sweet moment dearly, that's for sure. Hey, Ace. John calling my name out, being the only one in the room. I raised a brow. Yeah? He takes a deep breath and looks at me with his eyes focused. Think we could set up a spar? You and me? I smirked and stood up from a red cushion I was sitting on. Heh, I didn't think you'd challenge me right off the bat here. I chuckled. John laughed nervously. Well, even if it's been a few days. I want to see where I am. So that's why I wanted to try and have a match against you. Is Pirat teaching you or something? I asked him a bit nervous if he's already going to take the tough guy phase. He shook his head. Why not? Oh, she's going to teach me, but I need someone like a rival. Someone who I want to beat when I get better. He said with determination. I want to head to where I can help out my friends, and you. Letting out my warm smile, I patted his shoulder. All right. I grinned. Don't think I'm going to hold back on you. I said to him as a warning. He nodded as he's ready. I'll ask Professor Goodwitch if she doesn't mind letting us have a match. He said serious as we both fist-pumped. I'll see you there, all right? I nodded and let out a thumbs up. Sounds good, rival. I snickered. Once John left, I hummed. Guess a good tradition for a fight against him would be pretty simple. A knight against a fellow knight in arms. Looking at Kuroto and Poppy who both nodded. I sent out a one-wave goodbye as I left, heading to Mississippi Goodwitch's classroom. Hopefully, her class is in top condition again. I don't want to make another mess while I'm there. Hee. For a while it took a bit of time in order to get Miss Goodwitch to be convinced. Students didn't want Ace to come here due to his whole monster tantrum. But with the ladies' glare, they shut up. She sighs. Alright, but if there's one condition he'll follow while he's in the class. She said, raising one finger. He won't ever use the dragon dot. The dragon she means is because of that specific gas hat that changed Ace's behavior, also because of how dangerous it was to stop him. No one could even stop him. His semblance is something a few would drive to have. The power of nullification. Many don't know how it works, but Ace only knows about the bugster's ability instead of his own semblance. Shall we find out? Ace nodded as he jumped up to the stage and landing with ease. Sure. He said as he took out his gamer driver, slamming it onto his waist, taking out 2 gas hats out. I wanted to fight John in a traditional way. That I think ye medieval knight me would surely agree on. John got ready with his sword and shield up and pointed at Ace. I'll give it my all. Good, I would feel bad if you're all talk little bro. He grinned as John slumped. What? John shook his head and chuckled. If my rival's going to be like my big brother, then he'll need to be smooth with the ladies like in the family. Everyone face-bombed as John shrugged nervously. Yeah. Ace snorted as he pushed the two gashets in sync. And there goes your warning. Mighty Action X. Tattle Quest. John paled as he saw the two hologram titles behind Ace, but more importantly the right. Tattle Quest. Even though it's been a while since the students seen Ace's roulette of his transformations, it was honestly exciting to see a knight against a knight. Although Carden simply scoffed because of the two's pathetic choice in weaponry. Ace crossed his arms, letting out a smirk as he looked at John. Grade skill 0 to 1. Slotting down the gas hats into the henshin slots, and pulling the pink lever. Opening the two screens, one being blue and the other white. Gakken. Level up. Mighty Jump. Mighty Kick. Mighty Action. X. Agaka. Tattle Meguru. Tattle Meguru. Tattle Quest. As a small gray tornado covered Ace, making everyone hyped to see what it looks like, they weren't disappointed. A knight in shining armor it is as his form changed, a helmet formed like what the medieval knights wear, a small shield formed on his left arm, stalked in. The sword rises up from the ground to add in a dramatic effect. He pulls the sword out in ease and twirling it around. Putting it down and looks at John. Gaze out John, albeit the victor in this match. Picking his weapon back up and pointed at him. So prepare yourself as we clash in battle. The gang, especially RWBY, who was just excited for getting to see a new weapon than the one Ace used previously. However, they're confused. What's up with him? Blake asked. Ace, noticing their confusing looks, he pointed at himself and puffed in pride. This language isn't thy ordinary. It's been half used back at which hour we had dungeons. Dragons. Magic. The students were all intrigued at the history and started typing what language is he saying. The word Shakespeare appeared, all to which nodded in respect. Art the F, John? He asked to John, who looked slightly nervous. Why yeah. He stuttered. Thou art ready. Ace's tick marked appeared as if the blonde's making a mockery to his native language. It's lest I aft. He corrected John as he pressed the fire red A button again. Ko Chin. The blade's fire started to change into an ice-white cold blade as it was very exciting to RWBY. RWBY's eyes sparkled as she wanted to try out the weapon so bad, but she was stopped by her big sis who kept preventing her from jumping in the stage. Now then, shall we mocketh haste? Ace said as he held the Gashikan sword tightly in a vertical way, as ice were being collected and charging. He slammed his blade to the ground as ice was covering where John was in. John wasn't stupid to let it get to him, so he jumped out of the way and ran towards the Tattle Knight. Ha! He cried out as he tried to send a slash at Ace. However, Ace's reversal shield glowed and grew bigger, blocking the strike and pushing his opponent away from him with a straight kick. And sent of another ice wave to John, who was still a bit surprised, has been caught by the ice. Slowly, ice started crawling up to his body. John grunted as he tried to break free. He got an idea as he moved his blade and sheathed it back into his shield, and started to break the ice, which were starting to crack. He finally broke free and drew his blade again. He pressed his heirloom shield into folded and put it away. He then focused on his blade instead. Ace knew it was right if they face each other without a shield, so he nodded and the big reversal shield shrank back to the original size as well. Impressive, although if be true thee sheathed thy weapon and focused mainly on the ice covering thee. Thee quaint much would laseth right thither. John raised a brow. Well, you did let me break the ice anyway. He shrugged as Ace scratched where his hair would be nervously. Both knights have readied their stance as they yelled their battle cry, for their blades keep clashing one to another, as Gashikan sword ice mode started cracking. Ace realized this as he flipped his weapon to the middle and raised it high enough for John to drop his weapon. Ace then swung his blade as it was melting slowly. Even though each hits were landed, it wasn't much for John's aura to drop as it should be. He backed away and swiftly pushed the A button once more. Ka-chin! After John was able to get his blade, Ace held both of his hands to his weapon and took a deep breath. The fire started to go violent as he carefully slashed the ground with his tip. The fire wave started to now caught in a trap. He gripped his weapon, and ready to defend himself. His ears open to hear flames that sounds like Ace is close. He defends himself for each strike, even though he can't see where he is. He needed to focus on footsteps. He saw Ace going for his front, but he was mistaken as he disappeared in front of him, and landed a quick slash that made Jaune grunt. He still held on as he used his shield open and put it down on the ground. Everyone were confused as Glinda is for what he's doing. Once Jaune saw Ace's shadow appear in the fire, he kicked down his shield and it went up as the blade was close to him. The shield was able to catch Ace's attention off guard, and landed a punch to his face with a mighty slash to his chest. The man attack skid back as he hissed from the damage. He looked at his aura to drop significantly in the yellow bar. He smirked and clapped his hands, catching Jaune surprised. "Coequal, though it's only been a few days, thou art quaint valorous for thy ideas," he said with that praise to Jaune, as the latter was smiling. The fire circling around him faded. Jaune and Ace stare at each other as it's the final showdown. Both grip their swords, both auras having a little slight difference in meter. However, methinks it's time to receiveth serious, Ace said as he pulled out his Tattle Quest gas hat out and slotted it into Gashikan Sword's finisher holder. The shadow. Flames were now building up as he takes his right foot back a bit and his blade close to him. Pyrrha was honestly happy to see Jaune improving as he put his shield back and did the same stance as Ace did. Both ran at each other with their blades up. Tattle. Critical finish. Hast it thee, /ha. They both yelled as the two blades clashed with explosion, blocking everyone's view. Once the explosion ended with steam coming off, as Glinda used her wand to blow away the steam. It revealed Ace still standing strong as Jaune was on the ground, who's breathing still. Looking at the meter for both of them, Jaune's quickly dropped to the red meter and Ace's yellow bar barely close to the red section. He stood up and raised his blade with a sign of victory. Winner, Ace Valiant. Glinda declared as she saw it too, with a smile as they both fought fairly. Especially that Ace isn't in his dragon form. Everyone were raising their hands asking what happened. Glinda gladly provided the scroll hologram for both sides to see. It shows the replay as Ace and Jaune clashed their blades. However, Jaune's grip was weaker than Ace. Having the advantage, he slashed Jaune 2 times as an X form to his chest. Jaune struggled to stay up, but Ace reached to him with his right hand. The blonde knight gladly accepted it and gets pulled up in balance, both having a firm handshake. Ace reverted back in his form as he playfully punches Jaune's right shoulder, having a smirk out. You did good, rival. The blonde knight smirked back. The gang quickly went up to the two and saying their match was really cool in an old-fashioned night duel. That whole battle ended in a good note and a pretty cool experience overall. Jaune's a good thinker. I can agree with that, but his strength is something alright. It's hard to think that Jaune trained after I was away from all those battles I've fought. I definitely need to improve myself. And what better way is that, is by grinding my way. I'll ask only to Ashvin if he could let me battle in the Emerald Forest. He'll be convinced when I'll mention that my Grims also get stronger, and who knows, maybe they'll evolve into much more into their supposed final form. I really like planning on the before canon, so that when my team and I are ready, we'll be the most badass heroes they've ever seen. Rying. That's weird, a call from Hudash? Oh, it's Tuxin. Picking up my scroll and answering the call. Hey Mr. Tuxin, what's wrong? Nothing, I just wanted to let you know I'll be closing shop early, so you don't have to come in the store if you see the closed sign. Yes. More break time for Mo. Wait, I did say I was going to the clothing store with Coco and Velvet. Alright, guess I'll still do that then. Alright, thanks for letting me know Mr. Tuxin, I said with a smile. Just call me Tuxin, he said with a small laughter. Ending the call, I hum and see nothing much to do after that battle and attended my rest of my classes. I'll go on ahead and meet them there then. Taking out Bakosa bike, pushing the lever and summoning it again, hopping on it and starting the engine, I went ahead to my next destination. Finally landing in Vale, after that boring bullhead trip, I decided to take a small breath of fresh air to inhale and quickly go ahead to where I should meet the 2 members of Team CFVY. Which wasn't hard to find the clothing store they told me about. It's being crowded with girls all ages. Except the grandmas, apparently they're sipping their cup of tea and enjoying the chaos. I knew they were evil. But also chill as well. Ace. Oh, didn't think I'd find them still here. Turning to face Coco and Velvet waving to me, I nodded and got inside the store somehow. Mostly because some of the ladies in the crowd were staring at my build. Who knew these things work? After stepping inside the store, it's pretty clean, wide, clear, and somehow big enough for chaos to ensure. And yes, I did mean chaos. Everywhere was just women dragging onto nice clothes. I don't know much about fashion, so meh. Didn't think the power of the discount would rile all of them up. I said to the 2 members of Team CFVY. Coco waved it off. You'll get used it for a while. She said as she oh-oh'd at the clothes that match her color. And so will be us. Velvet just groaned. She's usually like this when we're here. It takes a while to find the one she wants. I sighed, but I just nodded. Right. Coco dragging both of us with her to test out new clothes and try to see what she can come up with for my clothes. And by for a while she meant a long-ass time. After struggling to resist the urge to leave the store, I couldn't because of my gentleman. Code of Honor in Section 2, Number 4. You must have patience in your side. I sort of have this gentleman rulebook stuck inside my head after that time, but it's been really helpful to me for being who I am today. It's good too, maybe if I wanted to work as a butler. Then I think I'll get the job done pretty smoothly. That's if there were a butler cafe. Which I hope to God there isn't. Oh right, Coco really does have good taste in fashion. Which I doubt people should say she isn't. What she thought what was missing for me is 2 things. 1. Glasses. 2. My hair combed back. I only comb my hair back if I was invited to a dance or some shit, which I doubt I will. I don't go outside that often enough to even bother doing that. Now for my glasses. I used to wear glasses before I died. But I can't say that to Coco and Velvet. At least not yet, I hope. Once Coco finally found the godforsaken clothes. We were going to a register as she took out her wallet and was going to slide in her card, but she was pushed away by a random rich lady. Watch where you're going. The random rich lady said in arrogance, as I feel a shadow casting over me, to which I was pretty scared to know who, or what's behind me. Quickly doing a 180-degree turn, I see a large buff man who's apparently breathing his nose out. Why can I see that? Oh geez, I don't know. He's either pissed or he's just that big for me to feel it down here. Hey there. I stuttered slightly at the guy's intimidating glare. Coco's eyes narrowed as she stared at the rich lady. Hey, get back in the line. I've waited so much to get these. The lady somehow pulled off those rich cocky laughs as she's disgusted by Coco's color. Blah, not something I'd take for even in a discounted rod like here. So, why are you here then? Coco asked with her mood raising a bit there. Simple, I'm here to buy all of these clothes. She declared as everyone's eyes widened. All these don't belong to either of you at all. Except me, because I'm just here being analyzed by some random buff guy. But there's something odd about this guy. It's like he doesn't have any aura. Maybe he's pretty experienced and doesn't need any aura? Probably, can't just say he's a Grim. 'Cause he looks pretty human to me. The ladies were surrounding the rich as if she's the main target. But apparently, she was able to convince all of them after handing each of them diamonds. Okay, now I would love to get a diamond so I can sell them for lean, which depends on the quality, the size, the shape, and all. However, Coco still kept the clothes with her. She's not even tempted for the money. Actually, where's Velvo? Velvet's currently hopping in glee as she got a diamond for herself with a smile. Ha! Shaking my head, I stare back at the guy and his gaze hardened. It's much more stronger than before. It's like he wasn't even serious. But after this intense feeling coming from me, I feel like he's not even human. I hate it when my gut's telling me something that should be obvious. Oh please. You know you can't resist it. The rich lady trying to persuade Coco to accept it, but what happened next was pretty shocking. She slapped the diamonds away, as if it wasn't even remotely her desire. Don't even dare say that these colors fit me. I've always loved this color and I'll stick with it for as long as it takes. She snapped back with her glare at the lady. The diamonds fell down, but it didn't shatter. Every girls were surprised, so they tested out if it can break easily. It didn't. Velvet didn't pay attention, so I took her diamond and threw it down to the ground as it didn't broke. She finally woke up and laughed nervously. So they all growled, surrounding the rich. However, the big guy in front of me roared out so loud that windows were broken because of the high frequency. The rich lady snarled as she was getting more madder than a hat. She snapped her fingers for the big guy to listen to her. Datery. Everything. Once she ordered him, he roared and looked at me. He started to do what gorillas do. What exactly is the gorilla acting man is revealed. It's covered in black skin, with bone-like plates covering its body at certain places like armor. A red pattern or symbol resembling an eye is present on its back. A berinjal. What the fuck's a berinjal doing here? I yelled and pointed at the obvious. She snickered. My semblance is capable of masking and even allowing temporary living or non-living things to change the appearance. It's temporary mostly because I can't keep my temper. She answered as she finally took off her coat. She has a weaponry of 2 bullet revolvers along with her own cane as she took out the 2 firearms and combined it with the cane. Pressing a button that triggered the revolvers into changing blades as it was now combined together into an axe. You're Ace Valiant, yes? She asked, although knowing my name. I flinched. You're working with the one who wants to kill me, aren't you? She humped and licked her lips. I'll take that as a yes. She said as she began to tear every clothes away. Her berinjal roared as it smashed its fist into the ground, a shockwave that pushed a lot of women out of the now ruined clothing store. Velvet and Coco looked at me confused, but yet worried. Struggling to stand up as the shockwave sent me a bit out of balance. I can't explain while we have a fucking gorilla here. I coughed out data bits that also added more fear for Velvet and Coco. The hell's your name? I asked loudly to the snot-nosed bitch. She smirked. Language. But for you, I guess you can call me Lavana. The now-named Lavana brandished her weapon and charged towards me, but Velvet intervened with a weapon that looks like RWBY's? Right, she has that scope of hers where she can copy someone's weapon, then there's her semblance of her copying the moves I think. I can't remember much, because I'm really feeling like I'm going to die. Coco pulled out her handbag revealing a large minigun somehow able to withstand the heavy metal. She starts shooting at the berinjal who only roars back. The gorilla-like Grim punched down once again causing more crater and using its strength to pull out rocks and throwing them at her. She barely dodged the large ones and keeps shooting. The shock wave and the rocks out of the way, I struggle with my right leg as it's limp. Coughing out more data as I wheezed. Velvet's face started to get more feared, which is making the berinjal more powerful for even getting that taste of negative feeling. Lavana looked at me and smirked. She kicked Velvet onto her stomach and easily landed a hit to her with her weapon. No. No. I said as I see Velvet hurt from that slice. I get more angry and angry as I see Lavana raising her blade. My inner mind roared as I yelled and forget about my injuries as I covered for Velvet, earning a stab from the bitch. Lavana smiled sadistically as she kept stabbing, and kept stabbing my back as I could only cry out in pain. Coco realized what's happening and starts shooting Lavana to get away. Successful it was, but my injuries can't say much. After letting go of Velvet, I spat out more data as they both were now cautious and scared. They both backed away as the same shadow cast over me. Lavana's berinjal roared again as it punched a hole to my body. But I couldn't continue as my body was now over with. slowly going unconscious as I turned to pixels, fading away. Game over. Game over. Ace's body went pixels as he disappears before the two girls. Velvet started to get much more scared, while Coco started to get more pissed. Why did you kill him? Velvet asked. Lavana simply smirked again as she hummed. For money, really. But I don't think you should be near him. Once she said that, they both stared at her confused. You saw that he didn't bleed, it's more like he's only data. Pointing at the data left behind, that faded quickly. More or less, he's not even human. She scoffs and points her axe to Velvet. But, more of a monster if you would say. She instantly pulled out her scroll and threw it towards her pet, who caught it and growled. Showing Velvet and Coco what she meant by that. The only video displayed was Ace's first time in the news of his level 0 to 5 form, destroying everything and even injuring the students in Beacon Academy. At first, I thought he was just filled with anger. But now that I see it much closer, he's a freak more than you ever. Velvet clenched her fist and looked away. That's not true. Oh, trust me, I think it's better if you're away from him. He has quite a big target on himself because of this. She giggled. I don't know much, but if I remember correctly, he has the ability to control Grims. The two eyes widened after hearing that, and it makes sense because of the rumors about Grims living with him. If that doesn't stop you, then so be it. She snapped her finger to her Beringel. Let's finish the two of them already. And we'll report back to our boss. It nodded and roared again. But a hole appeared in front of it, revealing a shadow figure kicking the gorilla away from the two members of CFBY. Makes even much more sense. She said, intrigued as to even more information and rumors linking up now. Ace is back again with his clothes and body repaired as if nothing happened to him. So what? He snarled as he took out the gamer driver and connected it. Game driver. I know I'll get many people going for my head. But I know I'll pull through it all. He said as he took out both of his gas hats. But instead a different one, and that's Gekitatsu robots. I'm sorry for not telling the both of you, Coco, Velvet. Both names being called wanted to step in to make sure he's okay, but he stopped them without looking at them. Ace's tear let out as rain started to fall with a thunderstorm happening. I can't let anyone hurt you, or your team, Velvet. Pushing the both of his gas hat lever down together. Mighty Action X. Gekitatsu. Robots. If I have to be alone then, so I fucking will. He said as he slotted the two gas hats in. Let's do it. Super fighting robot versus a Beringel. He growls as his eyes changed colors to crimson. Gritting his teeth as he and the Beringel punched each other, the strong force pushing everyone back as he stood still and the Grim too. For each punch is made, his bones keeps breaking and breaking until the gorilla-like Grim had enough and punched his left arm away from his own body as he pukes more data, the thunder cracking down as Coco and Velvet were scarred. His left arm chopped off as it falls down, fading away in pixels. He yells in pain again and again as his eyes glowed into white and black. His left limp arm had data covering itself as it formed into an arm again. I'm cursed, to be like this. Ace's dark look to the Beringel made it shiver in fear, and so did Lavana. I still feel pain, I'll endure this pain, if that's all it takes then fuck it. He spat and looked at Coco and Velvet. Leave me alone, go against Lavana here. He ordered the two, both being nervous from his sudden change. I said go. He yelled as the both nodded and faced towards Lavana. Now it's raining with Ace's eyes changed back into crimson as he clenched his fist. Grade 0 to 3, Henshin. He pulls the pink lever that opens up the two screens before him. One in white while the other, red. After the white screen went through him, he's donned into level 0. Agaka. But a take. Tatsugiki. Moretsu punch. Gekitatsu robots. A support robot appeared behind him is a small black and white mech themed with boxing gloves like arms. As it wasn't showing emotion, just like Ace. It immediately followed orders as if it ate Ace, quickly forming his new level part. He has now power mech shoulder pads and an armored chest, with a giant white-silver robotic arm. The Gekitatsu Smasher as his main weapon. As his helmet has a silver V logo. It turned quiet as they both looked at each other with no emotion, as if they both want a match with one victor alive. They charged with Ace using his weapon first, both fists contacted with another force impact even loud enough to make the cars beep. For each and every impact, it was so powerful that even the three ladies stopped fighting. Hell, even the people not even close to the fight heard it. Finally, the Berinjal landed a punch to Ace's right cheek, who stood still, landed his fist to the Grimm's guts. Time slowed down as a hole was made into the Grimm's open hole. He didn't feel anything but cold. He grabbed one of its arms and ripped it out, causing it to yell. Once he grabbed its right arm, it faded into and got absorbed into him. He still didn't feel nothing. After the Berinjal roared, it tried to run away, but Ace knew it was going to. Pathetic, he said coldly as he took out GR Gas Hat and slotted into the gamer driver's finisher. Gashado. He pressed the button once, triggering the static and fire powering up effect around his arm. Kaimwaza. His eyes glowed red as he roars and presses the button again. Gekitatsu. Critical finish. He aimed precisely on the target's head and slid through the path to it, and jumped up, slamming his fist down into the Berinjal's head as it exploded. Game clear. Finishing it in one blow, he felt more power rising as he didn't do nothing but remained there. Ace. He didn't look back as he slightly gazed Velvet behind him, worried about his very well-being. Ace. Ace's response was a fist landing on the imposter of Velvet, who spat out blood because of the power. She wheezed. How did you know? He looked down at her. I found out both of my semblances. Hearing that answer, she enjoyed more of the pain she's enduring. More. Lavana pleaded as her aura broke. Now she has to feel something to please her, due to her aura preventing of such pain. The now expressionless man turned around and felt being pierced by her axe. She chuckles madly as he still doesn't feel anything. He punches Lavana away from him and sees Coco and Velvet badly damaged. Coco being unconscious. Once he saw the both of them badly hurt, he clenched his left fist and focuses on his right arm. Fire was now being shown as it kept getting much more violent, even though the rain's still happening. It hasn't faded at all, he yelled as he punched the woman's stomach through. Her insides were now revealed as she smiled, kneeling down with her eyes widened. Blood leaking even further as he pulled his Gekitatsu Smasher back. Velvet was now crying as Ace was there, realizing what he's done, and just cries even more. He looks again at Velvet and reverts back to his human form. I'm sorry. The rabbit shook her head, but she doesn't look at him. Why did you do that? Ace didn't say anything, but he looked at both of his hands. She's right, I'm a monster. He mumbled, although Velvet's ears are super hearing. But you said you didn't care, for your friends. She said back as she wanted Ace to look at her. You said you don't care, as long as you have friends with you. She tried to hold Ace's hand, but he didn't bother. What am I to you? She was surprised at that question, but she took a deep breath. You're like a brother to me, you've been taking care of me, you showed me your other friends. They've all been so nice. I wanted to say thank you. She answered back with a smile. Ace still didn't look at her as he sighed. Ah, I figured I'm a big brother more than something else. He said, emotionless. But, now that you've seen how this went, I don't think we can be friends. His tears were leaking again. Velvet was now shocked. Were you? He nodded. Yeah, I was. His ears picked up to hear Coco breathing. So I let my anger go through me again, huh? Velvet didn't do anything but let her tears go. I didn't know. Ace shook his head and began to walk away. It's alright, I'm a monster, but since we're here and with all this happened. He looked at her with his blank face. I'm a bugster, a living game virus. Her eyes widened and wanted to stand up, but she couldn't. We're sorry. The young writer stopped and put his hands into his pockets. No, I'm sorry. After the thunder cracked, Ace left the scene with what everything's happened. It cannot be undone. He clenches into his digital heart as if it was broken once more. He can hear more voices in his head. You're a brother to me. I'm sorry, but I don't think it'll work out. You're only a friend. I don't have any feelings for you. Yuck. The police sirens and ambulances were heard behind him as he walked away from the scene. To be continued.